UK. U.S. President Donald Trump has unilaterally extended a ceasefire in the Iran war, but that doesn't mean that the shooting stopped. In fact, this morning we saw Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces open fire on a container ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, no one was hurt in that attack, but it apparently did severe damage to the bridge of that container ship. Iranian media outlet Noor News, which has long been associated with Iran's Supreme National Security Council, its top decision-making body, said that Iranian forces opened fire after the ship did not respond to demands of its military. Now, Iran has maintained a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz since the war began. It's believed that it also has mined parts of the strait and had been demanding payments of as much as $2 million to allow ships to pass through. This has affected the flow of natural gas and oil through the strait. During peacetime, about 20% of the world supply of both moved through there. That's having tremendous impacts on the global economy. It remains unclear whether we'll see any ceasefire talks in Islamabad. Right now, Iran has not formally acknowledged Trump extending the ceasefire, waiting for an Iranian response. But it just shows with this latest ship attack just how dangerous the situation remains and the risk of further escalation.
نیروی دریایی سپاه پاسداران در راستای کنترل هوشمند تنگه هرمز امروز صبح 2 فروند کشتی متخلف به نامهای MSC فرانچسکا متعلق به رژیم صهیونیستی و شناور متخلف اپامینودس که بدون مجوز و با انجام تخلف‌های مکرر و دستکاری در سامانه‌های کمک ناوبری و به مخاطره انداختن امنیت دریانوردی قصد خروج مخفیانه از تنگه هرمز را داشتند، با اشراف اطلاعاتی رزمندگان نیروشناسایی و در راستای احقاق حقوق ملت شریف ایران در تنگه هرمز متوقف نمود. بر اساس اطلاعیه سپاه این شناورها به منظور بررسی محموله و اسناد و مدارک به آبهای سرزمینی جمهوری اسلامی ایران منتقل شده است. نیروی دریایی سپاه مجدداً تاکید کرده است هر گونه اقدام برای مختل کردن اجرای قوانین اعلامی جمهوری اسلامی ایران برای تردد در تنگه هرمز و نیز فعالیت مغایر عبور ایمن از این آبراه راهبردی به صورت مداوم توسط نیروی دریایی سپاه مورد رصد قرار گرفته و با متخلفین برخورد قاطع و قانونی انجام می‌پذیرد.
What do you say to the American people who question how much longer this will take? Obviously, you know that they are having higher.
You're such a disgrace. Did you hear what I just said? Vietnam. How many years was Vietnam?
I understand, sir. But
how many
you are
years was Vietnam? Well, I did my end. I took the country out militarily in the first 4 weeks. I took it out militarily. Now all we're doing is sitting back and seeing what deal. And if they don't want to make a deal, then I'll finish it up militarily with the other 25% of the targets. We've hit 78% of the targets that we've wanted to hit. We've knocked out their manufacturing. We've knocked out their missile production. We've knocked out their drone production. We've knocked out everything. In some cases, when I say knocked it out, 70, 80, 90%. It's amazing what we've done. So I've done that within that period of time that I mentioned, but I don't want to rush myself.
Sir, would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran? You posted on Truth Social a few weeks ago.
We don't need it. Why do I need it? Why would a stupid question like that be asked? Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
Tonight, President Trump issuing a new warning to Iran, posting orders to the Navy to, quote, shoot and kill any boat mining the Strait of Hormuz. It comes after the Iranian regime began attacking and seizing commercial ships in the Strait, posting this video claiming to show its commandos boarding them, hours after President Trump extended the ceasefire with Iran.
Their military is totally defeated. They're outside of the little wise guy ships. I call them the wise guy ships.
And as the president is choking Iran's economy with his naval blockade to pressure the regime to make a deal. Overnight, U.S. troops boarding a sanctioned ship carrying Iranian oil in the Indian Ocean.
If they don't want to make a deal, then I'll finish it up militarily.
Does that mean Americans should anticipate spending more on gasoline for the foreseeable future?
For a little while. And you know what they get for that? You know what they get for that? Iran without a nuclear weapon that's going to try and blow up one of our cities or blow up the entire Middle East.
The New York Times reporting new details tonight about the health of Iran's new Ayatollah, badly injured in the same strike that killed his father and neither seen nor heard in public since. 4 senior Iranian officials claim he was gravely wounded but is mentally sharp and engaged after 3 leg surgeries. His face and lips burned severely, making it difficult to speak, and that access to him is extremely difficult, so generals are the key decision makers in Iran.
They have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control, because we've created a real mess for them.
Late today, the president meeting with ambassadors from Israel and Lebanon as he looks to cement the ceasefire his administration brokered. Inside Lebanon, the IDF had targeted the Iranian-backed Hezbollah after that militia had attacked Israel. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian spoke to this man who says his wife and daughter were killed in an IDF strike. It felt like an earthquake, he said. Tonight, the Lebanon ceasefire extended for another 3 weeks.
Monica Alba joins us tonight from the White House. Monica, there were a lot of headlines about a question the president was asked today whether he would ever use a nuclear weapon against Iran. What did he say?
Yeah, Tom, the president dismissed the idea, saying he wouldn't need it given what the U.S. military has been able to accomplish conventionally, but adding a nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
We're just getting a line here from Iran's Fars news agency saying that 2 missiles, assumedly Iranian missiles, but saying 2 missiles hit U.S. warship near Yask Island after it ignored Iran warnings. Just to recap on this very important news that's coming through, Iran's Fars news agency is reporting 2 missiles have hit U.S. warship near Yask Island after it ignored Iranian warnings. Now, Rasul, I appreciate the situation is very fluid. Are you hearing anything about this that no doubt would be a very serious escalation in what we thought was at least a ceasefire in terms of preventing military contact between the 2 sides?
Indeed, Sami. So earlier today, the Khatam al-Anbiya Joint Coordination Center, which is overseeing Iran's war affair, its commander, Ali Abdullahi, he just released a statement saying that any warships belonging to the United States entering the Strait of Hormuz is going to be attacked. So that was quite clear. There was not softening in the language. It was not a diplomatic term. No vague words. Simply they said that they are going to attack. And now that is happening. So the public relations office of the army, Iranian army, saying that with a firm and swift warning from the Navy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the entry of American Zionist enemy destroyers into the Strait of Hormuz was prevented. And then the Fars News Agency saying that 2 missiles hit the U.S. warship near Yask Island after it ignored Iran's warning. So that is the escalation. So practically, after the ceasefire was announced, this is the first military direct engagement. And of course, that does not mean that the ceasefire is now collapsed. However, it is now jeopardized. We can easily say that. So we're going to see what's going to be the United States reaction. But here, the things are really, really escalating. And it is Iranians have been saying that, particularly regarding their proposals, that now there is a new proposal in Tehran and they are reviewing it. But today, earlier today, the spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry, Ismail Bakai, said that the U.S. is inconsistent in its demands, is changing its positions, coming up with new demands. It's really difficult to understand what Americans are asking for, but rather they say that it seems to us that the U.S. is not looking for the negotiations, not interested in the negotiations, but rather trying to find the justifications for another round of the war. And Iranians saying that they are still hoping that this diplomatic engagement is going to pave the way for a peace settlement. However, the possibility of the return of the conflict is very likely, and that Iran's armed forces are preparing accordingly. And so that now the Fars News agency, which is associated with Iran's Revolutionary Guards, saying that the 2 missiles hit a warship, an American warship near Yask Island, after it ignored Iranian warnings. This is quite something new. So the ceasefire is not collapsed officially. However, we can easily say that it is jeopardized. It's a very, very delicate situation now here, Sami.
No doubt, Rasul, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to you to get more updates on that. That's Rasul Sardar from the Iranian capital in Tehran.
An investigation has revealed that Iranian strikes have damaged at least 16 sites used by the U.S. military in the Middle East. In other words, the majority of American positions in the region. Damage has been inflicted on high-value U.S. targets, raising questions about the Pentagon's footprint in the Middle East. CNN's Tamara Kilbawi reports.
Camp Buehring, Kuwait. American soldiers enjoying a karaoke night at one of the biggest U.S. military hubs in the Gulf. That was then. This is now. A once bustling American microcity in the desert, nearly empty and heavily damaged after a weeks-long barrage of Iranian missiles and drones. One of many U.S. military facilities in the oil-rich Arabian Peninsula, targeted by Iran even as the U.S. and Israel pummeled the Islamic Republic's large arsenal. So what impact have Iran's strikes had on America's footprint in the Middle East? A CNN investigation found evidence of unprecedented destruction. We can reveal that strikes damaged at least 16 U.S. installations across 8 countries. According to our analysis and sourcing, that's the majority of American military positions in the region, and some of them are virtually unusable now. A U.S. source familiar with the situation told us that they'd never seen anything like this at American bases, that these were rapid, targeted strikes using advanced technology. Iran's main targets? Multi-million-dollar aircraft, like this Boeing E-3 Sentry, which gave the U.S. a huge amount of visibility over the Gulf. It's out of production, and in today's money, it's worth nearly $500 million. Critical communications equipment. Look at these giant golf balls. They're known as radomes, and they protect satellite dishes vital for data transmission. In this base alone, Iran destroyed all but one of the radomes less than a month into the war. And crucially, radar systems. Highly sophisticated, expensive, difficult to replace, and critical to air defense. A second U.S. source, this one a congressional aide familiar with damage assessments, described these as the most cost-effective of the targets. Our radar systems, they said, are our most expensive and our most limited resource in the region.
For U.S. allies in the region, there's a dilemma. In some ways, Iran's show of force makes the U.S.'s presence in the region even more necessary to Gulf security. But there's a new reality here, which is that U.S. military installations, previously seen as formidable fortresses, have turned into sitting targets. As a Saudi source told me, the war has shown Saudi Arabia, that's the U.S.'s longest-standing Arab ally, that the alliance with the U.S. cannot be exclusive, and it is not, in their words, impregnable.
To get a sense of just how vulnerable U.S. facilities have become, have a look at this. It's the war room at Qatar's El Udeid Air Base, the theater command and control hub for U.S. air power across 21 nations. Struck not just once, but twice. And according to a U.S. source, causing significant damage. The base had been largely evacuated at this point, and no casualties were reported. Iran's visibility over its targets has never been clearer. In 2024, according to the Financial Times, Tehran secretly acquired a Chinese satellite, known as the TEE-01B, a massive upgrade from its own satellites. That means that Tehran went from looking at images of this quality to this. This is the first time America has fought an adversary with satellites that capture high-res imagery almost as detailed as its own. As the scale of the damage comes into focus, many will wonder whether America's presence, once a protective shield in the Middle East, has turned into its Achilles heel. Tamara Kilbawi, CNN, London.
A merchant tanker, somewhere in the dark waters near the UAE coast, suddenly struck by unknown projectiles. No warning, no claim of responsibility, just a ship hit in one of the most dangerous stretches of water on the planet. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and right now, it's a war zone. May 3rd, 2025. It's 7:40 p.m. UTC. A merchant tanker is cruising roughly 78 nautical miles north of Fujairah, UAE. That's barely a stone's throw from the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. Then, projectiles. The crew survives, no environmental damage, but the message sent is crystal clear. And here's the thing, that wasn't even the only attack that day. Hours earlier, a bulk carrier heading northbound was swarmed by multiple small boats just 11 miles off the coast of Iran. Crew safe again, but 2 ships, one day, both in the same corridor. Here's why this matters to you, even if you've never set foot on a boat. The Strait of Hormuz is the jugular vein of global energy. Roughly 20% of the world's oil flows through that narrow passage. When ships get hit there, energy markets panic, and they have been panicking. Since the Iran conflict escalated earlier in 2026, at least 24 attacks have targeted commercial vessels in and around the strait. The result? Shipping traffic is way down, fuel prices are way up, U.S. gas prices are hovering around $4.45 a gallon, and in California, even higher. This isn't just a military story. Every time a tanker gets hit, you might feel it at the pump. So what is America doing about it? On the very same day these attacks happened, President Trump announced Project Freedom, a U.S.-led operation to escort neutral commercial vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz, starting May 4th and 5th. Trump called it a humanitarian mission, getting food and supplies to crews stranded in the waterway and opening the passage for innocent ships. He also made something very clear. Interfere, and there will be consequences. Iran wasn't having it. Tehran immediately labeled Project Freedom a ceasefire violation. Meanwhile, Iran reportedly submitted a 14-point peace proposal, including demands for sanctions relief. Trump described it as conceptual. In other words, talks are happening, but attacks are also happening. Nobody has claimed responsibility for the May 3rd attacks. Nobody knows exactly who fired those projectiles into that tanker near the UAE. And that uncertainty, that's almost the scariest part. Because this is a strait where one wrong move, one miscalculation could spiral fast. And the world's oil, the world's shipping lanes, and now U.S. warship escorts are all tangled up in it. The Strait of Hormuz has never felt more like a powder keg.
Corey Howard, and this is the Pulse. The United States says military helicopters have sunk 6 Iranian small boats that were targeting civilian vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. It comes after the military reported that Iran launched missiles, drones, and small boats at ships that the U.S. is protecting in the strait. President Donald Trump said the U.S. Navy would help guide ships out of the Strait of Hormuz starting today. And ships from all over the world are stuck and are unable to travel through the key waterway after Iran effectively blocked it off.